Jeff Buckley was an amazing musician. I feel like one of the ways that Jeff really influenced me was through air drumming. We would air drum sometimes together, or sometimes I would air guitar and he would air drum or something like that, because we were sort of a little bit retarded like that. But I'm pretty sure that a guy like Dave Grohl probably spent a lot of time air drumming as well. There's something about acting it out that does. It's almost like changing the contrast, maybe in a photograph or something, like making the darks darker and the lights lighter. Like, it just simplifies. It's like, what's the point of what's being played? What's really going to read? It's sort of like the idea, any note that doesn't really need to be there shouldn't be there. Of course, that's an intuitive thing to say, but Jeff's way of sitting on a groove, either at the drums or when we were listening to music, we would listen to a lot of James Brown together. And the way that he would sit on a groove, or the way we would appreciate a groove, had something to do with the concept of distillation. There's a lot of things that we have to learn as drummers to do, just to gain proficiency, just to get in the door, to be able to be a part of the musical family and play your role. But you can't actually, well, I'm not going to say what you can or can't do, but I don't really practice going out and doing the things that I work on when I practice. That's what I mean by distillation, and I learned that a lot from Jeff. Jeff was all about figuring out what are the most important things here to play. And then once you've started figuring out what the most important things that you can play are, what can you eliminate? What's possible to remove without it sort of changing the overall quote-unquote DNA of what's being played? How can you keep what you're playing still what it is, essentially, as an idea, but remove as much as possible? That's what I mean by distillation. And when you remove things, there's a certain kind of clarity that happens. There's a certain kind of almost like transparency. That's really wonderful. You can start to see, you feel like it's almost like the music is like a three-dimensional environment, and like you've taken a lot of the clouds and the obscuring kind of details, mundane details out, and then you get this feeling of space. So I learned a lot about Jeff. I learned a lot about drumming from Jeff because he was a great singer. And being a singer sometimes, if you also know the other instruments, how to play the other instruments in the band, you know how to sit behind the drums and make really good music. You know how to play the bass. You know how to play the guitar. You know how to sing. You know how to write a song. Like, Jeff was that kind of musician. You can't do all that for a number of years without having it change the way you hear. The ideas you come up with are just informed by more experience, a more comprehensive experience. Now, that shouldn't preclude having a very specific mastery of an instrument, and I would say that he was quite a master with the guitar, and he was a masterful vocalist. That was a couple years. That was a 2-year drum lesson for me, working with Jeff. Yeah, amazing. Thanks so much for checking this interview out. This is the record we made 20 years ago. It's a 20-year anniversary this year. Jeff died in 1997. God bless him. And thanks to Vater for documenting this. Appreciate it.
kisses.